Listen closely, because if you borrow my attention for just a moment, I'm going to help you borrow something far more valuable for the rest of this month. Favor. Not the random, accidental kind. Not the maybe if I'm lucky kind. I'm talking about the kind of favor that shows up early, sits in the front row, and refuses to leave your life alone. The kind of favor that makes people say yes before they finish thinking. The kind that opens doors you didn't knock on and introduces you to opportunities you weren't even dressed for yet. Now, before your practical mind clears its throat and says, "Here we go again," let me stop you right there. I know how this month has been treating you. You started it with a list, a plan, a vision, maybe even a fresh notebook that now looks suspiciously empty. You promised yourself this would be the month things finally flowed. And instead, you've been pushing, explaining yourself, reminding people of your worth, and wondering why it feels like you're always just a step behind the good stuff. Let me say something gently, but clearly. There is nothing wrong with you. You are not behind. You are not unlucky. And you are not invisible. You are simply trying to attract favor, while secretly rehearsing resistance in your mind. And favor, dear one, has very good hearing. Most people think favor is something you chase. They exhaust themselves trying to be impressive, agreeable, perfect, or endlessly available. They think if they work harder, smile more, speak less, or tolerate nonsense politely, favor will eventually feel sorry for them and show up. But favor is not persuaded by effort. Favor is commanded by alignment. Yes, I use the word commanded. Don't panic. I don't mean stomping your foot at the universe like a toddler in a grocery store. I mean issuing a calm, confident instruction rooted in self-respect and expectation. The universe, much like life, responds beautifully to clarity and terribly to desperation. Think of it this way. If you walk into a room unsure whether you're welcome, you hover by the door. You apologize for taking space. You ask permission to breathe. And people treat you accordingly. But if you walk in as though your seat has already been reserved, you don't argue for it. You simply sit down, and everyone adjusts. That, my dear, is favor. Now let's be honest. The struggle isn't that you don't want favor. The struggle is that you've been trained to believe it's rare, selective, and reserved for other people with better timing, better connections, or better hair. You've been quietly negotiating with life instead of directing it. You've been hoping instead of expecting. And hope is charming, but expectation is magnetic. Here's the core challenge. And I want you to really hear this. You cannot consistently experience favor while entertaining inner conversations that contradict it. You cannot speak abundance out loud and rehearse disappointment in private. Life is very literal. It listens to what you repeat, not what you wish you meant. Most people don't realize they are issuing commands all day long. They wake up and say things like, "This month is going to be tough." Command accepted. "People never help me." Consider it done. Nothing ever works out on time. Delivered promptly. And then they look around, shocked, as if the universe has played a practical joke. No, my love. The universe is not mocking you. It is mirroring you with impressive consistency. Let me offer you a simple framework. One so simple you might be tempted to overlook it. But don't. This is the hinge on which favor swings. Thought, word, feeling, action. In that order. Always in that order. A thought repeated becomes a word. A word accepted creates a feeling. A feeling sustained inspires action. And action, when aligned, produces results that look suspiciously like luck. If your thoughts are heavy, your words are cautious. If your words are cautious, your feelings are tight. If your feelings are tight, your actions are hesitant. And hesitation is not where favor likes to linger. Now here's where we add a little humor. Because life is far too important to take seriously all the time. Favor is not hiding behind a bush, watching to see if you get everything perfect. It's not holding a clipboard, shaking its head, saying, "Almost," but you sighed too loudly. Favor is more like a friendly cat. It comes close when you're calm, confident, and not chasing it around the house. So, How do you command favor this month without turning into someone who chants affirmations angrily in traffic? You begin with assumption. Assumption is quiet. It doesn't beg. It doesn't over-explain. It simply expects cooperation. You wake up and you say, preferably before your phone has a chance to ruin your mood, everything and everyone is working in my favor this month. Not as a plea, as a statement. You don't check to see if you believe it. Belief catches up later. Assumption leads. Then, and this is important, you behave like someone who expects help. You don't over-justify. You don't shrink your requests. You don't apologize for existing. You ask clearly. You receive graciously. And when something goes wrong, you don't spiral into prophecy. You say, interesting. Favor must be rearranging something. That one sentence will save you hours of emotional gymnastics. Let me tell you a little truth that will make you laugh once it stops irritating you. Favor often arrives disguised as a delay, a redirection, or a firm no from someone who was never meant to be a yes. And people who understand favor don't argue with closed doors. They thank them for their honesty and keep walking. You see, favor is efficient. It doesn't waste time convincing the unwilling. It reroutes you toward the ready. Now, let's talk about your mouth. Yes, that beautiful instrument you use to order coffee and occasionally undersell yourself. Your words are not commentary. They are instructions. When you say, I hope they like me, you're implying they might not. When you say, this is probably too much to ask, you've already reduced the supply. Instead, try this delightful little shift. I'm always well received. Say it casually. Say it while brushing your teeth. Say it when sending that message you've been overthinking for 3 days. You don't need to shout it into the void. Favor hears whispers just fine. And here's an actionable step you can take today. Not tomorrow, not next Monday when the moon is perfect. Today. Choose one area where you've been bracing for resistance. Maybe it's work. Maybe it's money. Maybe it's relationships. And for the rest of this day, refuse to predict difficulty there. Just for today, treat it like an experiment, a playful one. Notice how often your mind tries to say, here we go again. Smile at it and reply, actually, things go smoothly for me. You don't need to fight the thought. Just redirect the conversation. Favor loves a good redirect. Now let me address something tender. Some of you have been disappointed before. You tried optimism and felt foolish. You trusted and got burned. And now you keep your expectations low as a form of self-defense. I understand. But low expectations don't protect you. They only delay you. Favor does not require naivety. It requires neutrality. You don't need to be giddy. You simply need to stop rehearsing disappointment as though it's wisdom. Here's a truth that will feel rebellious in the best way. You are allowed to expect good things without earning them through suffering. You are allowed to be favored without a backstory of exhaustion. You don't have to struggle theatrically to justify ease. And if that makes you uncomfortable, wonderful. That means you're shedding an old agreement. As this month unfolds, I want you to watch how often people mirror your inner posture. When you speak with certainty, they listen differently. When you assume cooperation, it appears. When you stop chasing approval, it comes looking for you. Not because you manipulated anything, but because you aligned with your own authority. Let me give you one more practical tool. Before any interaction that matters to you, pause for 5 seconds and silently say, I am divinely favored here. Not in a dramatic way, in a matter-of-fact way. Like reminding yourself you have your keys before leaving the house. Then go in relaxed. Favor flows through relaxed people. Tension blocks it like a kink in a hose. And when something delightful happens, no matter how small, acknowledge it. Say, of course. Gratitude seals the pattern. Not frantic gratitude. Calm recognition. Favor likes to be recognized without being worshipped. Now, I'm going to ask you to do something simple, immediate, and slightly mischievous. In the comments, or even just to yourself if you're feeling private, complete this sentence. This month, favor shows up for me when, and let it be something ordinary, a conversation, a payment, a decision. You're not tempting fate, you're giving it a direction. And if you're enjoying this, stay with me. Subscribe, linger, return. Not because you need another voice telling you what to do, but because consistency builds momentum, and momentum is a close cousin of favor. Remember this as you move through the rest of today. You do not chase favor. You host it. You expect it. You make room for it by dropping the habits of doubt that have overstayed their welcome. And as you do, you'll notice something almost amusing. Life will start agreeing with you. I'll pause here. When you're ready for me to continue, just tell me to go on. Now let's continue. Because once you've invited favor in, you must learn how to keep it comfortable. Favor is not impressed by frantic effort, but it is very sensitive to atmosphere. And most people unknowingly create an atmosphere of resistance while insisting they want ease. That contradiction alone is enough to make opportunities arrive, glance around, and quietly leave through the side door. Let me say something that may feel personal, but it's meant to be liberating. You've been trying to convince life instead of trusting it. You explain your reasons too much. You over-prepare for rejection. You rehearse disappointment like a speech you might need later. And all of that sends one clear message. I don't expect things to go well, but I'm hoping to be surprised. Favor doesn't work on surprise visits. It prefers scheduled appointments. Think of it this way. When you expect company you want to impress, you tidy up. You don't panic. You don't run around yelling, "I hope they don't judge me." You simply prepare the space. That is how you treat favor. You prepare the inner space by removing cluttered thoughts, anxious predictions, and unnecessary self-criticism. One of the most overlooked blocks to favor is self-justification. You feel the need to explain why you deserve something, why you're not asking for too much, why your request makes sense. But favor doesn't respond to arguments. It responds to certainty. When you say, "I deserve this because I've worked hard," you are still negotiating. When you say, "This belongs to me," you are issuing a claim. Now, let's address something that quietly sabotages many people: the habit of expecting resistance from others. You walk into conversations already armed for defense. You anticipate pushback. You assume people will misunderstand you. And then you're shocked when the interaction feels tense. Here is a simple, slightly amusing truth. People often agree with the version of them you expect to meet. If you expect cooperation, you speak differently. Your tone softens. Your timing improves. Your body relaxes. And suddenly, people are surprisingly nice. No surprise at all. You led the dance. Try this experiment for the next 7 days. Before speaking to anyone whose response matters to you, assume goodwill, not perfection, goodwill. Say inwardly, "They want this to work too." Then speak plainly. Watch what happens. Favor often hides inside ordinary conversations that aren't weighed down by suspicion. Now let's talk about money, because the room just shifted a little. Money is one of the loudest areas where favor tries to speak and gets interrupted by fear. People say they want abundance, but they argue with it constantly. They question timing. They doubt sources. They brace for loss the moment gain appears. Favor and fear do not share the same chair. Here's a gentle reframe. Money responds to respect, not obsession. When you treat it as scarce, it behaves shyly. When you treat it as cooperative, it circulates. Speak of it kindly. Expect it to arrive from channels you cannot predict. And when you pay bills, do so without resentment. Resentment is a very poor investment strategy. Say instead, "There is always more where this came from." Not dramatically, casually, like stating the weather. Now let me bring humor into this, because seriousness can block miracles faster than doubt. Some of you act like favor requires you to be solemn at all times, as if joy might distract it. Nonsense. Joy is a magnet. Laughter loosens resistance. When you laugh at your own patterns instead of condemning them, you dissolve their grip. If you spill coffee and immediately think, "This day is ruined," catch yourself and say, "Ah, the dramatic opening scene," and move on. Favor likes people who don't catastrophize over small messes. Another subtle block to favor is impatience disguised as urgency. You tell yourself, I just want this to work already. But underneath that is a belief that time is against you. And time, feeling insulted, slows down to prove a point. Instead, adopt this attitude. Everything unfolds at the precise moment it can be received without strain. That sentence alone relaxes the nervous system. Favor flows through relaxed systems. Now let's talk about your self-concept. Because favor does not override how you see yourself. It amplifies it. If you see yourself as overlooked, favor will arrive in tiny, apologetic ways. If you see yourself as supported, favor arrives boldly. Ask yourself this question and answer honestly, not politely. Do I secretly believe life is harder for me than for others? If the answer is yes, you've just found a belief ready to be retired. You don't need to shame it. Just thank it for trying to protect you and let it go. Say, life is not harder for me. It works with me. That shift alone changes how you interpret events. What once felt like obstacles begin to look like redirections. What once felt like rejection feels like editing. Here's another actionable step, and I encourage you to try it today. Choose one complaint you repeat often, just one. And for the rest of this month, refuse to voice it. When it rises, replace it with a neutral observation or a gentle expectation. Complaints are commands in disguise. They instruct life to continue the pattern you're tired of. You may notice a strange discomfort at first. That's because complaining has been your way of bonding with others and releasing tension. Find new ways to bond. Share curiosity instead. Share humor. Share anticipation. Favor grows in environments where conversation is forward-facing, not backward-looking. Now let me speak to those of you who feel unseen. You show up, you contribute, you care, and yet recognition feels delayed. Favor is not absent here. It is rearranging vantage points. Sometimes you are too close to your own value to see how obvious it is. When you stop pushing for acknowledgement, it often arrives unannounced. Do your work with excellence, then release it. Do not hover over outcomes like a nervous parent at a school play. Favor finds those who trust the process enough to let it perform. And let me say this clearly, because it needs to be said. You do not have to dim yourself to receive favor. You do not have to be less confident, less visible, or less joyful to keep others comfortable. Favor is not stolen from others when it arrives for you. It is multiplied by shared belief. If someone resents your ease, that is information, not instruction. As this month continues, begin to notice patterns of cooperation, parking spaces, timely messages, unexpected help. These are not coincidences to dismiss. They are confirmations to acknowledge. Say, I see you. Favor likes to be seen. Now, I want you to interact with this moment. Not later, now. Either out loud or quietly. Say, I am someone for whom things work out. Notice how your body responds. If there's resistance, smile. Resistance is just a habit that hasn't caught up yet. If this is resonating, let it resonate fully. Stay engaged. Subscribe if you haven't. Comment something small but intentional. Engagement is not just digital, it's energetic. When you participate, you reinforce expectation. Remember, favor is not dramatic. It is consistent. It is subtle. It is orderly. And once you stop arguing with it, it becomes almost predictable. I'll pause again here. When you're ready for me to continue and bring this all home, tell me to go on. Now let's bring this home. Because favor, once understood, is meant to be lived with, not just admired from a distance. And this is where many people quietly slip back into old habits. They enjoy the idea, they feel inspired, and then they return to their routine thinking, as if inspiration alone does the work. Inspiration opens the door, practice keeps it open. Let me start by saying something that will make you smile and maybe squirm a little. Favor does not respond to neediness dressed up as spirituality. You can use beautiful words, noble intentions, and very sincere prayers. But if underneath it all you are saying, I don't trust life to come through, life hears that part loud and clear. Favor loves confidence far more than ceremony. So let's simplify. This month, you are not asking life to be kind to you. You are assuming it is. You are not hoping people will be generous. You are expecting fair exchange. You are not bracing for disappointment. You are staying neutral and available for good. And yes, I said neutral, not hyper-positive, not floating on affirmations like a balloon. Neutral is powerful because it removes resistance without forcing belief. Neutral says, I am open to good outcomes. Favor finds that very inviting. Now, let's talk about habits, because favor cannot thrive in chaos disguised as flexibility. When your days have no rhythm, your mind has no place to rest, and a restless mind invents problems. You don't need a strict routine. You need gentle consistency. Wake up and say one kind thing about your day before it begins. Just one. Today supports me. That's enough. Eat when you're hungry, rest when you're tired, and stop treating exhaustion like a badge of honor. Favor does not reward burnout. It reroutes around it. One of the most powerful ways to command favor is through decisiveness. Indecision sends mixed signals. It says, I don't know what I want, but I'll be upset if I don't get it. Favor prefers clear instructions. Make small decisions quickly. Trust yourself. You can always adjust. Life responds to motion more than perfection. And let me gently correct something. Waiting for certainty before acting is a very clever way to avoid change. Certainty usually arrives after movement, not before. Favor meets you halfway when you take the first reasonable step. Here's another truth that deserves a chuckle. Some of you are waiting for a sign so obvious it knocks over furniture. But favor often whispers. It nudges. It repeats themes. If you keep seeing the same idea, the same opportunity, the same invitation, that is the sign. You don't need lightning. You need attention. Now let's address relationships, because this is where favor often gets misunderstood. Favor does not mean everyone treats you perfectly. It means the right people respond to you with ease, and the wrong ones exit without drama. If someone drifts away when you stop overgiving, that is not loss. That is alignment. Speak your needs plainly. You are not being difficult. You are being clear. Favor supports clear people because they make room for honest exchange. And please, release the belief that being nice requires self-erasure. Kindness with boundaries is magnetic. People trust those who trust themselves. Let me give you a playful exercise for the rest of this month. When something goes right, even slightly, say, naturally, not sarcastically, calmly. This trains your nervous system to expect cooperation. Over time, your baseline shifts. What once felt like a miracle begins to feel normal. That is favor settling in. Now, I want to address fear of disappointment one last time. Disappointment only hurts deeply when you identify with outcomes. When you see outcomes as information instead of verdicts, disappointment loses its sting. Favor isn't fragile. It doesn't disappear because one thing didn't work out. It recalibrates. If something falls through, don't declare the month ruined. That's like canceling the entire meal because you didn't like the appetizer. Stay present. Stay curious. Favor often waits just past the moment you would have given up. Here is your final, very simple call to action. And I mean simple. Choose one phrase to carry with you for the rest of this month. Just one. Something like, things work out for me, or I am divinely supported, or favor goes ahead of me. Repeat it when you're waiting, when you're walking, when you're tempted to worry. Not as a chant, as a reminder. And then, act like someone who believes it just a little. Hold your head differently. Speak a bit more slowly. Ask without apology. Receive without guilt. If you want to anchor this even deeper, leave a comment sharing the phrase you've chosen. Words spoken publicly have weight. They declare intention. And intention is the first language favor understands. If this message has brought you clarity, stay connected, subscribe, return. Not because you lack wisdom, but because reinforcement shapes reality. What you hear repeatedly, you live more easily. As you move through the rest of this month, Remember this, above all else. Favor is not outside of you, deciding whether you are worthy. It is responding to how you see yourself, how you speak to life, and how willing you are to receive without resistance. You are not late. You are not forgotten. You are not excluded. Favor goes before you, rearranging paths, softening conversations, and opening doors you no longer need to force. Walk as though you are expected, and watch how life agrees.